you have on a lot of different hats, and being able to just quickly say, okay, now I'm doing marketing. Now I'm going to look at the financials. Now I'm going to look at operations, what's working, what isn't working. So being able to like turn those muscles on and off very quickly, I think is really important.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If you are enjoying the show, please leave us a rating and review. It helps us learn what you're getting out of the show and also helps us identify the right guests to bring on to help you on your investing journey. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. Make sure you get some great information here. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, we've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Puja Talati. If you're ready to scale your apartment investing portfolio, but you have questions, make sure you join us live for a special and exclusive Q&A session we're going to be hosting Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, during this session, we're going to go over some of your top questions and some of the frequently asked questions we receive from both active investors and passive investors. This is a great opportunity to ask those direct questions, get some feedback from us, and learn how to scale your apartment investing portfolio. Join us Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Register using the link in our show notes. Again, this is live Q&A session Wednesday, April 24th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can register using the link in our show notes. Now, Puja Talati is the co-founder of JT Capital, where they buy B and B plus value add assets, primarily in Florida and Texas. Now, they have about $550 million worth of assets under management, and they are launching a new fund called the JT Capital Strategic Income Fund. Let's welcome to the show, Puja Talati.
Hi, thank you. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Puja, it's great to have you on. I went over your bio at a very, very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Sure. So right now I am the asset manager at the company. So wear lots of hats. I do operations, marketing, kind of combine all of that and manage all of the assets that we have in our portfolio. Prior to becoming a partner at our company in real estate, I was a brand manager at the Hershey company. So led our P&L, operations and marketing. And then prior to that, I was in strategy at Deloitte Consulting.
I love it. I love it. So we were talking before we hit record that, your background, I was in advertising and marketing for 15 years. My wife has been in the consultant space. So you understand both of us, man. So it's awesome. It's great to have. So I certainly can relate to your experiences, both in the corporate world, being a brand manager, but also being in the consulting world. Talk to me about why you decided to make kind of that transition and what got you into real estate in the first place.
Yeah, so it was actually, we had a milestone in my life. I was having a child, my first child. And at the same time, my husband was finishing up his fellowship. So lots of years of training. And at that point, I went on maternity leave and was deciding, okay, what do I do next? So in the meantime, I was really lucky that the Hershey company let me consult with them afterwards while I was remote, figuring things out. My brother actually is one of my partners, and he was in real estate already. My husband and I had talked about it. We said, okay, we'd love to do real estate, but there's no way I could do that with a full-time job, a new kid, and then dive into real estate too. We knew that wasn't possible. So since I was looking, that's where my brother said, we could really use somebody who has marketing insights, operations. Why don't you come work with us? And if you don't like it, you can go back to corporate America. And many years later, I am still here.
I love it. I love it. So your real estate investing experience prior to joining your brother was what?
So before that, I invested in a multifamily property. And we also had our own a single family property. And one of the things that was interesting is that's when I started to get into real estate. Then we had moved to Texas. And we got lucky that we were able to rent our single family home to a friend, a really good friend, actually. So it worked out really well. But we thought to ourselves, okay, this is kind of interesting because I'm in multifamily and everybody who said it, now I can kind of see some of the headaches of, we don't want to have a property manager once, our friend leaves this place. It just we're not even scaled. And so we were able to kind of see both at the same time. And I was able to see, I was already in multifamily, and I was able to see, oh, okay, this scalability just makes a lot of sense.
No,
So
I think that makes so much sense too. Yeah, you talked about, having that house, you moved, rented the house to a friend, which is, common. It happens to a lot of people, right? You move, you rent the house, you don't want to sell it, or maybe the market's not right to sell it. So you end up being what they call an accidental landlord. But you were also very strategic in becoming a multifamily investor. And that gave you a little bit more confidence when this opportunity came to partner with your brother. I love the background that you have, being in corporate America, being kind of in the marketing role, being a consultant. I think that opens you up and positions you nicely to go and scale a multifamily portfolio. What do you think some of the advantages are from you having that background?
Yeah, I think one of the big pieces, so when I was in strategy and operations, I think the biggest thing that I learned was there's just a big learning curve, right? Every single project I was on, it was very different. I was on a healthcare project, an M&A project, one where we just talked to the C-suite and just gave a quick, pitch deck. So it was just every single time you're on a new project, you had to become the expert, right? Because they're paying you lots of money to consult. And so translating that into multifamily is there's a lot of things that you don't know until you get into the weeds. For example, you can read, I read a lot of books. And at one point, my brother's like, I'm just gonna be honest with you, you got to just roll up your sleeves and dive right in. And he was 100% right, because every single property that we've had, I mean, so many things happen at an asset management level. And then you just continuously learn off of those experiences. So big learning curve. I think if you have that mindset, it really helps. The other thing is just, you have to be, from my days in Hershey, I think just being the owner operator, right? At Hershey, when you're marketing, you're not just a marketer, you actually own that brand. So then taking that here, we own these assets. So you have on a lot of different hats, and being able to just quickly say, okay, now I'm doing marketing. Now I'm going to look at the financials. Now I'm going to look at operations, what's working, what isn't working. So being able to turn those muscles on and off very quickly, I think is really important.
I love what you said there. And I think that's a really good insight because, when you come from that brand manager role, you really are wearing multiple hats. It's not just, hey, I'm overseeing the advertising budget. It's overseeing really the entire operation, the entire business, because you are the spearhead, you're the champion, it's your brand. So that really, transitions, I think, really well to being an asset manager for the same reasons. Typically you may not think something like, property management or construction management falls underneath your background. But when you're in that seat, that's your job. You got to oversee it all and make sure that business is moving forward in the right direction. The second thing you said that really stood out to me was, when you're on the consultant side, it didn't matter what your previous background or experience was. You had to get up to speed very, very quickly on these products, these companies, these brands, and learn because they were trusting you to become the expert, even if you didn't have prior experience. And I think that's really important because that's a transferable skill. There's information out there. You can get that information, you can learn, but you're never going to know more than someone who's been in that industry for, say, 20 years. So instead of trying to learn every single thing you can, roll up your sleeves, figure it out, and get to work. How do you think that helped you get more and more comfortable, specifically being an asset manager when you were only in the industry for a couple of years?
Yeah, so I think the one thing that helped a lot too is once you join, like you said, you're not going to know everything. And the books are great, but you can't really talk to the book and say, okay, now what do I do next? Right. So that's where building, your network is really important. And just, we have built a really great network of other owner operators, right, that we've partnered with, or, and I still do this, even though I've been doing asset management for so many years now. I'll still pick up the phone and call a friend and say, hey, here's what we're experiencing at our properties. We've done this, this, and this. What have you done that maybe I haven't thought about? Or, maybe it might have been something that they did 3 years ago. And so it's just this network of knowledge sharing. And, what I would say is that it's really important because, again, you can read, you can see what's on Twitter, you could see what people are saying on LinkedIn, but being able to just let your guard down and say, okay, here's the real thing that's happening. What do you think I can do? And if you find those right people, it can really help you become so successful.
Yeah, I think it's a great insight. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It's always important to have people in your circle you can reach out to when you ever face or whenever you face a specific challenge. So you're talking about your peers, right? Other owner operators, or you could say, hey, here's a challenge we're facing. Have you faced this? How have you approached it? What results did you get? Whether those are peers, advisors, mentors, other partners, making sure you have these people in your relationships. It's so critical because you're going to see new stuff. You're going to see things that are always a little unique. I was at an event this weekend and I was talking to a guy and he mentioned that they found a home. So this is a house, not necessarily multifamily, but he said it was a house where it had about a foot of water in the basement. And he's like, so we want to drain that out, obviously, and check the foundation and reinforce it. But before we do that, we're actually going to take this opportunity and create a fun video. So they're actually going to add water to it and have one of the guys in a little raft down there and swimming in the raft or whatever, so they can make a nice little video for social. And I'm like, most people would freak out if you saw that kind of water. And these guys said, we see crazy stuff all the time. We're going to make a video out of this because how often do you get a chance to do something like that, right? So I think it's always fun and interesting when you can have these people in your circle because they can help you understand how to take advantage of a bad situation or how to fix a situation to make it work for your needs. Let's talk a little bit more about what you're working on today, right? So I know I said in the bio that you all are focused on B and B plus assets. How do you define that?
Yeah, so we'll look at 2000 or higher build. This is also a learning experience, right? The vintage properties can be great, but it can also be a lot of work. You don't really know. You can do all the due diligence, but until you start ripping up the carpet and seeing what's underneath, you don't know how much sometimes deferred maintenance is really out there. And so part of that's the learning curve. And we realized, we've narrowed it down to, okay, we want this particular age set. And then we look at, specific areas that we are really well-versed in. And then we like to add value. So we have an interior, exterior renovation plan. And then, we'll just go in and we'll start, renovating, adding to the resident experience. And then our hold time is usually 3 to 5 years, or, I'd say right now it's when the timing is right, depending on the market situation.
And you're now running your fund, right? So you've got your strategic income fund. Easy for me to say. You've got your strategic income fund, which is opening up. What is this fund geared to do?
Yeah, so this fund, right now, I think when a lot of people are seeing fear in multifamily or real estate in general, what we're seeing is opportunity. I think there's actually always opportunity. You just got to go find it and understand what that opportunity is. So what we're seeing right now is there's a lot of really good owner operators out there, right, who might need like a rate cap extension, or they might need, a little money to take another player out, or what have you, right? But we're looking at their numbers, we're looking at their financials. They have equity in the deal. And what we're seeing is that, some of the larger institutions, they're already doing this, but they're writing checks for people who need $20 million. Or $15 million, like these really big checks. Now, what we're seeing is this area where, people need maybe like $2 million or $3 million. So we're able to write these smaller checks. We have a preferred stack we're preferred in the capital stack. And, we have really good returns. And so what we're seeing is this isn't something that's going to go on forever. It is a short window of opportunity where really good owner operators, they're very experienced. They have a great portfolio. They need that. Lenders aren't really lending, right? Everything is getting really tight right now. We're here to help out with that. And the nice part is like I said, it goes back to network. We have a really good relationship with some of our lenders that we're getting not just stressed assets, right? We're getting stuff that's coming across their desk and they're saying, hey, this looks like a really good fit for you guys.
I want to break this down because this may be kind of a new concept for some people, or maybe you're just not as familiar since, for the last 10 years or so, this kind of thing hasn't really been needed. So first of all, kind of just give us a scenario. What kind of investors in a situation where they could use the funds and the lending that you're talking about in this kind of pref position?
Yeah, so take an example, somebody who might have, like, I'll give the rate cap example where they might need to purchase a new rate cap that might be $1 million. They may not want to go ask their current investors for it. And at the same time, they're doing a refinance, and that's already in the works. So what they'll do is say, hey, we just need this as a temporary bridge. And, obviously we're doing the due diligence. We have a team that's looking at the underwriting and whatnot. But really, then the idea is we give the funds and they'll turn it around quickly, right? They have a plan because then they're going to refinance. So we're actually, we accepted a project right now where, we should see the returns in 6 to 9 months. And the fund is diversified, right? We're going to be investing in about 20 to 23 different types of assets. So the nice part is you have this diversification, which also helps mitigate risk. I think most people are used to just investing in one property. And this is, you're essentially investing, let's say you put in 100 grand, it's spread over many, many properties. And then once, like this deal that we're working on right now, once that money comes back, it's going to then be reinvested into another project or opportunity.
Yeah, and what you were describing when you said that, maybe someone has a rate cap situation, they're going to be refinancing. You're talking about someone who is really in this, just a timing issue, right? So they've got a loan where maybe that loan is coming due. They need to get a new rate cap, or they need to extend their rate cap on that bridge loan. They're looking to refinance, but they've got to do some work before they can actually refinance. That's where you're coming in, kind of really helping them get the capital they need to finish up their business plan until they can get to kind of the refinance, which is a liquidity event. That at that point, they can kind of pay you guys off, give you your returns, and then they can go on and operate their deal moving forward.
Yeah. And I see this as a win-win, right? Because we're also owner operators. So for us, obviously the fund, it makes money for our investors, but at the same time, it's nice to see that other owner operators will also be successful. Right?
Yeah, and absolutely. And let's highlight the alternatives to that, right? Because I think it's helpful for people who just, again, aren't really that familiar. Without a fund like this or access to capital like this, what's going to happen to some of those operators?
Yeah, so we're not looking at distress. So if it's not us, they'll probably find somebody else. But it is getting harder to get money from a lender, and a lender may not be giving you the 1 million that you need or the 2 million. And there is a lot of private equity on the sidelines, and the bigger institutions, they see this opportunity, and that's where they're putting their money in. And so we see this opportunity as well, but we're not competing with the institutions because we're not writing $15-20 million checks. We're writing a smaller check for a different class.
Yeah, you said you're not looking at distressed opportunities. So to be clear, this is different than maybe rescue capital or something like that you're hearing more and more people talk about. You're really looking to play a role where you're kind of a bridge partner, right? Just coming in, really playing more of a pref equity. Pref, of course, preferred is you're going to sit higher in the capital stack, meaning you're going to get paid back before, other LPs or other investors in a deal get paid back. So it's almost kind of a mezzanine debt type of position. But that's what the kind of opportunities you're looking for, where you could come in, help out that investor, that owner operator, sit in a nice preferred position in the capital stack and make a nice return for your investor. So for those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with that, it's definitely something worth, looking into more. You can go to Puja and her team's website, go to jtcapitalgroup.com and learn more. For someone who is hearing this for the first time, like, what are some of the common questions you typically get about the income fund?
I think one of the biggest questions is, well, I don't quite understand when I'm putting this into, because most people are used to putting it into one asset. And so we just kind of explain it. I kind of take a look at it as, think about, I'll go back to my Hershey days, right? And make it really simple. You're either, you're at the grocery store, it's Halloween time, and you're throwing a party. Are you going to buy just all Reese's in one pack? Or do you want like a variety pack? Because that might be more appealing to people at your party, right? Now take it to the financial way. It's, are you going to invest in a stock, which is similar to that one flavor of candy, or do you want to invest in a mutual fund, which just has a variety and, a little bit less risk, right? Now to take it to real estate, it's the same concept of, are you going to put, let's say, your 100 grand in one property, or your 100 grand, which will be spread over, multiple properties. The other difference too is when you're investing in just one property, we're the owners of that, and we're operating it. In the fund, it's different, right? There's a different owner operator. But the reason that we're also not looking at distressed is we do have control rights on this. So if, God forbid, something terrible happens, we have the control rights to take over. But that's why we're also looking at assets that we would be willing to purchase.
And I think that's a smart
experience.
No, please continue. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, those are the types of assets that we already have experience in. And so, we would love to own these assets. And so we're kind of looking at it from a couple of different lenses, like, hey, worst case scenario, if we did have to take over, not worst case for us because we like the asset, but we want to see the property succeed. And that's why we're underwriting it and looking at it the way we are, as opposed to distress, which I think it's just a different goal for what the fund would have. And that's not our fund's goal.
I love that clarification there, because I think that helps people understand the worst case or the downside here is maybe you do have to step in, take over the property, but it's an asset that you already like. More than likely, you're going in with some level of equity because, that LP position or that junior position kind of gets wiped out, unfortunately. So you're going to come in with a little bit of equity to come and finish the business plan. So you do mitigate your risk from that standpoint. Again, that's not the goal, but if that's the downside in one of the worst case scenarios, you can manage that a little bit better. And then obviously on the upside, they deliver, they pay you back with the returns that you've agreed upon, and you're able to go and use that capital on another opportunity. So really great opportunity. And this is one of the reasons you are seeing people, maybe putting together funds and taking advantage of the market cycle and kind of the market environment as it sits today. On the active side, when you're out there hunting for deals, what are you looking for outside of the Class B type assets? Has anything changed in your underwriting process? Tell me a little bit more about what you look for moving forward.
Yeah, so I don't do the underwriting myself, but typically what our team would look for is, we use RealPage and CoStar. I think it's really important to look at data. So some of the things that we're looking for, and people have probably seen this, there's a lot of supply that's come on the market recently. And so we'll look to see, okay, if we're thinking about buying in an area, what does the supply look like? And we can model that out to say, okay, occupancy might be a little bit lower until the end of 2024. That's okay. We come prepared for that. And then know, okay, what would it look like after all these deliveries happen? And how will that change pricing in the market? So knowing some of that data, I wouldn't say you'd necessarily be turned away when there's a lot of supply, but then you come in with an action plan and obviously underwrite to see if that works. Right now we're seeing, we're waiting for the right deal. We have underwritten quite a lot of deals, but it just isn't penciling out. And so we're okay to be patient. We put our name behind these deals. And so we want to make sure, okay, whatever we're doing, we feel really comfortable. We feel really good about it. And we just haven't seen that quite yet.
No, I think this is a smart approach. And, we certainly understand exactly where you're coming from on the deals. And we are seeing it get closer, right? The pricing expectations starting to come down and starting to be more in line with where we're at. But just the other day, we, missed out on another deal, if you will. So it's just how it goes, right? You got to make sure you stay true to yourself, your underwriting, your analysis, and be patient. It's really important to stay patient given the current market environment. Again, if anybody wants to learn more, they can check out your website. Go to jtcapitalgroup.com. And then, of course, you have the strategic income fund that's available there. Right now, we are going to transition to a round of insights. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the Mastermind button today. Give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Okay, that's a good one. So when I first started out in this industry, I think one thing that I realized is I allowed somebody else to lead things thinking that that would happen. So for example, like we were doing a renovation project, and typically I am very organized. I have all of my trackers, but I said, okay, well, they're the management company. They're doing this. I assume they have a tracker. And then when you asked, you realize they don't have anything, right? They just weren't as organized, and times have changed. But that's when I realized, don't just assume that somebody else who's leading it is actually doing everything. And so it's almost like CYA. So I then just said, okay, I'm going to create a template and I'm going to give it to you. And then every week we're going to review this template. This way I could just put structure around something that's unstructured. And so from that, I just, created a lot of processes. And so now we have a lot of trackers. We are able to copy paste and use that for various projects. And, you tweak it as you go, but now at least you come with some sort of foundation. And you'd be surprised where 99% of the time we'll use our tracker or we'll use a little bit of theirs and kind of blend it and make it even better. So I think that that's something that, I came from a corporate America where there was just a lot of structure in place. And then you just realize that don't have those expectations all the time.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Yeah, so, I am doing the operations and asset management, and I also wear a marketing hat. And so I actually heavily rely on CoStar and RealPage to just give me all of the data. The data helps me when I'm running the operations on site. And then it also helps me from a marketing perspective to really understand what's going on and being able to share with our investors and kind of take all of that information, make it digestible and easy to understand.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
So I just finished actually reading a book, and I've been telling everybody about it, but I actually have it here. It's called Building a Story Brand. And it's by Donald Miller, and he is really good. I don't know, John, if you've read it, but he does a really, really good job explaining how to build a story. And, as a marketer myself, like it's just really interesting to see, the brands that I worked on, they've been there forever. When I came onto the business, it was already set for me. So seeing how that story, how he plays that out, is just great because you can do that for your company, you can do that for your personal brand. And that story can kind of change over time, depending on how your target audience changes over time. So highly recommend it, a great book to have.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
So I'm still a pen and paper kind of person. And so every single day before I start, I rewrite all of my to-dos. And what that helps me do is just kind of reinforce in my head, okay, what do I have to do today? It just gets me started for the day. If all of it's up in my head, I get, kind of clouds like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And this just gives me really good focus. And then I like to cross things out as I go. And then by the end of the day, when I can see a lot of things crossed out, it just makes you feel really good. Sometimes you forget how much you've accomplished in the day because new things happen. And it's just a really good reset at the end of the day to say, okay, I crossed off 5 big things, like that's huge. And then I start that process every day.
Give me your number one insight for investing in diversified funds.
I think the number one insight is, especially in the diversified fund right now, is there's so much opportunity. So really, really look into seeing what's happening in the market right now. We've had some people say, now is not the right time. All this stuff is happening. But if you really do understand the structure of the funds and the opportunity that's here today, I look at it as a once in a lifetime opportunity, and you don't want to miss that boat.
All right, let's lighten the mood. You are out there in Austin, Texas. Give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Okay, so I love Italian food and specifically cacio e pepe. And there's a really good restaurant called Il Bruto, and they have really good cacio e pepe and really good olives.
Sounds like a nice choice there. Pooja, you gave us a lot of great information talking about your background, being a brand manager, being on the consultant side, getting into real estate, specifically multifamily, and being an asset manager, just talking about how those skills are transferable, how you were able to leverage your background in corporate America to be a successful operator. I think it's really important for people. A lot of times, if you do come from corporate America, those skills are transferable. I loved how you talked about, maybe some of that organization wasn't there with that property management company, and you had to create the processes to allow that company to thrive and the communication to be sound. Because a lot of times we do give up control or decision making if someone else has more experience. I only realized we probably should have kept that control and power ourselves. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I appreciate you breaking down kind of the strategic income fund and why it's a great play for you, not necessarily a distress fund or rescue capital, but really looking for opportunities where you can come in, add value to that operator while still making a return for your investors. Again, if folks are interested and they want to learn more, they can go to jtcapitalgroup.com. Pooja, thank you again for coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.